The condemned man was injected with 3 drugs in sequence. What should have been a peaceful, painless drift into death turned into pure agony. He screamed for a long time before finally dying. The scene sent everyone in the room into a panic. Afterward, investigators didn't believe it was an accident, and they were right. The drugs had been swapped out for poison, which raised one burning question. Who hated this man enough to do something like that? To answer that, you'd have to go back 10 years. This death row inmate was involved in an extremely heinous crime. He and an accomplice had broken into the home of a man named John. Right in front of John's eyes, the accomplice brutally murdered his wife and daughter. Both criminals were caught and convicted, but the sentencing was a grotesque miscarriage of justice. The one who hadn't pulled the trigger got death row with a 10-year delay. The one who actually committed the murders, 3 years, all because the killer had the right connections. After the verdict was read, the devastated father watched in silence as his own attorney shook hands with the monster who had destroyed his family. He turned and walked away, and vanished for the next 10 years. A decade later, when the killer saw the news about his former accomplice dying on death row, he even gave a cold smile. He had no idea that hell was already on its way to his front door. Then his phone rang. The voice on the other end told him the police were coming for him. He glanced out the window. He ran. Following the instructions of the mysterious caller step by step, he managed to slip away from the officers closing in on him, until he was eventually led to a police cruiser parked nearby. Inside was an officer, seemingly asleep. The killer climbed in, grabbed the officer's gun, shook him awake, and at gunpoint ordered him to drive. They ended up at an abandoned warehouse. Just as the killer was about to finish off the officer, his phone rang again. The voice on the phone belonged to the police officer standing right in front of him. When the man turned around and pulled off his wig, the killer finally recognized him. It was John. The killer fired immediately, but when he pulled the trigger, the gun didn't shoot bullets. It shot spikes. The poison coating those spikes entered his bloodstream instantly, and he froze, completely unable to move. John told him plainly, the poison wouldn't kill him. It would just make sure he couldn't move a muscle, but he would feel everything. And then the revenge began. John bound him tightly and laid out an array of blades, introducing each one and explaining exactly which part of the body it was meant for. Then he injected the killer with adrenaline to make sure he wouldn't pass out. The killer was so consumed by terror that he lost all control of his bodily functions. A few days later, police discovered what was left of him: 25 pieces. Even the most seasoned detectives on the scene had to fight the urge to be sick.